Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Laura Plato, Chief Operating Officer for sky'sthelimit.org. We're a nonprofit connecting entrepreneurs with mentors, educational resources, and funding opportunities to help you start, scaffold, and scale your business. And, earlier this morning, I was rewatching an old conversation on YouTube from way back in 2015 between Professor John Powell and Bell Hooks. And Bell said, if you have love, you have the community of belonging that comes with it. So it's in that spirit today of love and belonging that I welcome you all. I join you all here today with my co-host, Sharifa Muniz of New Wave Foundation, who'll be joining us in just a minute, and our entire Money Talks family. Welcome to day 2 of Money Talks. Together, we're honoring Black History Month, and we're celebrating Black futures and the power of entrepreneurship. And for those of you who joined us yesterday, you already have a hint of the inspiration that's in store. This program and these conversations really could not be more timely. A recent study by the Association for Enterprise Opportunity revealed that Black business owners have 12 times more wealth than Black wage earners. And yesterday, we heard from just a few of those entrepreneurial voices. From Jason Kelly, founder of The Wave, we learned yesterday to take one thing at a time, master it, and integrate it in your business. Founder Raquel Wilson of Raise the Bar Investments shared that mentorship is so valuable to growing her business, she thinks we should consider it a cheat code. And Ariana Edwards, founder of Vila, reminded us that you cannot say the right things to the wrong person or the wrong things to the right person, so just be you. We also heard some great messages reminding all of us to live from our values, practice self-care, and share ideas freely and support one another. So it's in that spirit I want to once again encourage all of you, use that chat functionality to support one another, ask questions, share your thoughts and insights as we're going along, and use the Q&A functionality today to direct your questions to our speakers and panelists. And I have great news. Please be sure to join us for a special bonus at the end of the day, added at your request, an additional peer networking hour just after our financial roundtable, where you will have the chance to connect with some new friends and hopefully deepen some of the connections you made if you were here yesterday. It's my joy now to introduce you to my dear friend, Sharifa Muniz, founder and executive director of New Wave Foundation, to get us started. Sharifa, welcome.
Thank you so much, Laura. And welcome again to Money Talks, our entrepreneurship and financial literacy webinar series, day 2. As Laura mentioned, my name is Sharifa Muniz, and I am the founder and executive director of the New Wave Foundation, an organization focused on creating educational opportunities for deserving students through workshops and events just like this, in addition to scholarships and provision of educational tools. Before I go any further, just like Laura had said, yesterday's event was fantastic. So if you didn't get a chance to attend yesterday's event, please look out for the recording. Have a notepad, have a pen to take notes, because gems and nuggets were literally thrown out left, right, and center. And today is going to be nothing less than amazing as well. And so to kick things off, we are delighted to introduce you to our keynote speaker of the day, and it's none other than Anthony O'Neal. He is a #1 national best-selling author. He is the host of The Table, which is a very well-known YouTube program. He is also author of a chart-topping book, Debt-Free Degree, where he's reached over 15 million people in 15 different countries through his podcast. Apart from teaching others how to obtain mental, spiritual, and financial freedom, Anthony's mission is to help singles maximize their single season with both intention and grace. So without further ado, let's give it up for Anthony as he talks to us about more money, less problems. Take it away, Anthony.
Hey, how y'all doing? Well, listen, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And you guys, I remember it was about maybe, how old am I now? 38. So about 18, 19 years ago. Dang, your boy's I'm getting kind of old. And I remember graduating high school. I went to Fayetteville, North Carolina, at Southview High School, and you couldn't tell me nothing. I was a good-looking young Black man. It's Black History Month, so we got to honor all this beautiful Blackness on this brother. Yes, God. Yes, God. But you couldn't tell me nothing because I grew up in a very strong Christian faith home, a very strong Christian faith home, right? And my father wouldn't let me go and listen to R&B music. I couldn't go to the school dances. I couldn't go and just go to the mall and chill out with my friends. I couldn't do really none of that stuff because I had to go to school, come home, do my homework, and then go to church. We went to church every single day, like Monday through Friday, through Saturday to Sunday. I mean, we went to church at 8 a.m., 10 a.m., came home, eat dinner, took a nap, back to church, 7 o'clock. And graduating high school, I was so excited because we had two important conversations growing up. The very first one was, hey, as a young man, if you get pulled over by the police or you get stopped by the police, here's what you do. You call mom and dad. We come to your defense. Second conversation was, hey, when you get $100 from working, you give 10% of it to the church. Here's how you get into heaven. No one really said, hey, here's how you build wealth. Hey, here's the difference between a credit card and a debit card. Hey, here are the things that you need to be doing, you should be doing to build legacy, to really maximize your single season when it comes to wealth building. Here's how you avoid debt. Everyone pretty much said like, hey, go get you a job once you graduate from college, get you some good 401k benefits, work for 40 years, for 40 hours to enjoy the next 4 years of your life once you retire. So I did just that, went off to college and I was like, yo, listen, I'm really excited about what's going on. I really do love this thing. So I walked into the college campus, y'all, and I want to show you exactly what happened when I walked into the college campus. You know, so I get on the college campus, never seen a girl, never went out on a date with a girl, never even experienced anything. And I was like this. How you doing? And I was like, yo, I'm free. And so I remember talking to this young lady, and this young lady looked at me and she said, hey, where are you from? And I was like, yo, man, I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina. And she was like, so what do you want to do? Like, what's your name? And I was like, my name is Anthony. She said, ooh, Antonio. And I was like, Antonio, girl, say that again. Put an L in my name. Yes, Lord. And she looked at me up and down, from head down onto my toe, and she said, but Antonio, do you have any money? I was like, girl, I got $5 in my back pocket. We can go to Burger King and you can have it your way. And so to make a long story short, because I really want to make sure that I give you all some practical things on things that have helped me really change my life, one, financially, and how you can apply these things today for your life. And so when she looked at me and I said, I got $5, she's like, no, come holler at me when you actually have some money. And y'all, I did just that. Went off to the college campus and got a credit card. And when I got the credit card, man, I racked it up. Within a matter of 6 months, I racked up about $35,000 in debt. $15,000 of that was in credit card debt. $10,000 of that was in student loan debt. Another $10,000 of that was in furniture debt. And unfortunately, I made a bad decision in school. And when I made a bad decision in school, it cost me my college experience. And then it also cost me my job. And when I lost my job, I lost the income that I was using to actually pay for my apartment. Thought I was going home, and my father and my mother didn't allow me to come back home simply because I made a bad decision. And my father was like, since you think you're a grown man lives with his decisions. So you guys, at the age of 19, I'm drowning in debt and I am homeless, sleeping in the back of my car. And if I'm gonna keep it a buck with you, especially during Black History Month, you know, all of my friends who I tried to impress, I went and asked them all. I was like, hey, listen, can I just sleep on your couch? No, not one friend of mine allowed me to sleep on their couch. Not one young lady who I bought the Dooney and Burke's purse for. Not one lady who I spent money on flowers, who I took to Red Lobster back in them days, allowed me to even come and just eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I remember at the age of 19, sleeping in the back of my car, drowning in debt. Then I'm going to the YMCA or the Boys and Girls Club, and I'm sitting here taking showers Monday through Friday, trying to figure out what am I going to do. So I quickly realized during that season of my life, that low point of season of my life, that the caliber of my present was determined by the choices I made in my past. And if I was going to then change the caliber of my future, I have to change the choices that I'm making today. So I made one choice. And as a spiritual man, I'm going to be real with you. I made one choice. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get back on my spiritual walk. Have I made all the right decisions since then? Absolutely not. Have I, failed and made mistakes and sinned? Absolutely, I have. But I say, you know what? I want to get back on my spiritual journey. Then number two, I went back and I told my father, listen, I'm not a grown man. I'm a young man who's ready to learn how to become a grown man. And then three, I started doing some research on how to really change my life financially. And I'm so grateful that, during that journey of my life, I saw a lot of people from, your Robert Kiyosaki's, your Dave Ramsey's and stuff like that. And one of the key people that actually registered with me was Dave Ramsey. And Dave Ramsey registered with me because he teaches this thing called the 7 baby steps. And he really believes in having freedom, no debt, having financial peace. And I was like, yo, I like this. Because what I've learned was that a lot of minorities who look like me, we don't have financial freedom. We don't have financial peace. We don't have financial joy. We are stressed. There's a study that says that nearly 80% of the people in America will live paycheck to paycheck. And I was like, okay, whoa, this is not for me. So y'all, I jumped on this journey and I paid off all my debt. Took me some time to pay it all off, went out there and got me 3 jobs and studied some things that Dave was teaching, read the book by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, was really growing and maturing my mind. And there was a song back in the 1990s by a guy of the name of the great notorious B.I.G. He came out with a song called More Money, More Problems. And, we were all jamming to that. More money, more problems. We was all having a good time to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, more money. I want more money. When more money come in there, I got more problems. And I remember dancing to the song, hit bass dance, like, hey. I remember going, hey. And then as I grew up and as I really got closer to God in my spiritual walk, and when I really started maturing, I quickly realized that, hey, just because I have more money, does that necessarily mean I have to have more problems? Now, more money doesn't mean you will have absolutely no problems. More money doesn't mean you will have more freedom. More money doesn't mean you will have more happiness. More money doesn't mean you will have more joy. But just because I have more money, should that equal more problems? And I really do believe that if we can honestly sit back and really find the foundation of who we are and what's going on, listen, I think that we can really, really, really have more money and experience less problems. We can have more money and have joy. We can have more money and have peace. We can have more money and we can really go after our dreams and go after our goals. So very quickly today, what I want to do is give you some practical tips on how you can have more money. Get excited. How you can have more money and less problems. Here's tip number one. I want you to write this down. If you have a notepad, if you got your iPhone, if you're watching me on your iPhone, go to your notepad. Just make sure the sound is on and come back and look at this good looking brother who's talking to you. All right. But I really want you to write down these things. Here's the very first thing. You got to have a vision. If you're really going to experience more money and less problems, I don't care if you're making $20,000 a year. I don't care if you're making $40,000 a year or $100,000 a year. If you're really going to experience more money and less problems, you have to have a vision. What do I mean by vision? It's simple. A vision simply means, where are you going? What's the direction that you're having for your money? I believe in the Bible says, where there is no vision, that's where people perish. It's Proverbs, right? And I believe that's the same thing for our money. Where there is no vision, aka budget for your money, that's why you're missing, and that's why you're not having the financial success, because you haven't taken the time to sit down and put a vision to your money. You're not telling your money where your money should go. So you got to have a vision. If you're going to have more money and less problems, well, how do we prevent problems? Well, we address it up front. My father gave me these 6 P's. Write this down. Boy, I wish I could have this on the screen for y'all. I'm gonna get that the next time I come back. But proper prior planning prevents poor performances. Oh, let me say that again. Proper prior planning. Okay. Properly and priorly planning how you're going to spend your money prevents poor performances with your money. You see, when we have a vision, that's us properly and priorly sitting down and planning. What are we doing with our life? What are we doing with our money? Are we going to buy a house this year? Are we going to pay off some debt this year? Are we going to buy a car this year? Am I going to take my beautiful lady out this month? What are we doing? We're putting money on paper. We're putting the vision for our money on paper. But check this out. Before you can really have a vision for your money, you got to have a vision for your life. If you're going to have more money and less problems, where are you going in life? What do you desire in life? Where do you see yourself at in the next 5 years? You know what, better yet, where do you see yourself at by August of this year, 2022? Have you paid off $5,000 in debt? Have you racked up another maybe $5,000 in your savings account? Let's go even smaller. Have you just put $500 in your savings account? If you're in school and you're in high school right now and you're watching this, have you worked hard to get your grades up to where you can get a scholarship to go to college without any debt? What exactly are you doing? You see, a vision sets you up to be in alignment with whoever and whatever comes into your life. You see, a vision sets you up to where if a friend comes in and says, hey, I want to do ABC, well, you can say, well, I can't do ABC because that doesn't align with my vision. If someone comes to your life and says, yo, we're going out to the beach this weekend, well, it doesn't align with what I'm doing right now, because I want to, save up for college. I want to save up for my first car. I want to start eliminating debt. Hey, I want to propose to my young lady. Hey, we want to take our family over here. Hey, we want to purchase a house. So right now it's not a no forever. It's a no because it's not aligned with where we're going. And so I want to give you some practical tips when it comes to your money. All right. So if you're going to have a vision for your money, the number one way to do that is to actually have a budget, right? That's the proper word for it. For me, I love calling my budget the vision. What's the vision for my money? And how do you have a vision for your money? It's simple. It's very simple. And it's called a zero-based vision, zero-based budget, right? You're going to list all your income. So if you're getting a check from job, if you're getting a check, if you're older and you have child support or alimony, any kind of income that you have coming in, you're going to list that at the top of the vision of your money, the top of the vision when it comes to your money for the budget for your money. Then you list all of your expenses, every single one. Now, ladies, ladies, look at me. Look at me. I know y'all got those little apps on your phone, right? You got those little apps on your phone, and y'all got those little nice little apps when you take a little picture, what I'm saying? It cleans up your face. It kind of makes your face a little smaller and, makes you look a little good. You spend like $1.99 a month. That's an expense. Okay, that's an expense. If you go to the store and you got to get some hair grease, that's an expense. Brothers, be real with you. Brothers, look at me. It's probably not a lot of y'all on here, but let me be real with you. Your girlfriend is an expense. Now, ladies, don't get upset. Don't get upset. I'm not saying you're an expense in a negative way. What I'm saying is, brothers, if you're taking her out on a date, Dating is an expense. Anything that you spend money on is an expense. Now, hopefully, brothers, you're dating a woman that is aligned with your vision and she's not expensive. Hopefully she understands this young man. He's trying to get out of debt. He's trying to build wealth for our family, future family. But brothers, listen, dating is an expense. Ladies, dating is an expense. So listen, when you're going to have a clear vision for your money, a clear vision for your life, you got to start off with your income. List all the income you have coming in. Okay. Then you're going to list all of your expenses, car notes, mortgage payments, rent payments, insurance, you name it, anything that you're spending money on, any debt payments, credit card bills, you list it, boom. And at the end of your vision for your money, it should be zero. Now, if you have negative, so let's say you have $5,000 coming in, and let's say you have your expenses add up to $5,020. Well, you need to go back to your expenses and figure out where can you cut out $20 so that way you can be zero. You shouldn't have more and you shouldn't have not as much. So let's say for an example, you have $5,000 coming in and you only spent $4,900 on paper. Well, go back and spend that other $100. Put that towards a debt payment. Put that towards savings. Put that towards something. Listen, if we're going to have more money and less problems, you got to have a vision. Every millionaire and every billionaire that I've had the opportunity to learn from, that I've had the opportunity to sit up underneath and learn, they know exactly, one, where they're going in life, and two, how they're spending their money. Take some time to sit down, whether you are in high school, whether you're in college, or whether you're like myself, you're an adult in the adult world and you're moving forward. Spend some time to set aside some time to where you can just get in a room that is dark. Turn this off, okay? Turn it off. If you have kids, put your kids to sleep. If you're seeing someone, that person who you're dating, tell them, hey, give me a couple hours to myself. And I really want you to sit down and just dream and cast vision and write down what you see. Where are you going? And then when you say, this is where I'm going, ask yourself, why do you want to go there? And when you ask yourself why you want to go there, really ask yourself 5 times. Because here's the thing. When you ask yourself why 5 times, your vision gets stronger. Your vision becomes the core of who you are. And any of your financial goals that you're trying to accomplish, that you're really trying to do, oh my goodness, in year 2022, you're going to get it. You're going to hit it. You know why? Because if your why doesn't make you cry, then the price of commitment will make you cry. Let me say this again. If your why for your vision is not deep, and if your why doesn't make you cry to accomplish your vision, then what it would take for you to get out of debt, what it would take for you to go to college debt free, for what it would take for you to start that business, for what it would take for you to get that job promotion, for what it would take to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish, will make you cry. So the very first thing, if you want to have more money and less problems, you guys, you have to have a vision. You got to have a vision for your life. You got to have a vision for your money, aka a budget. And you got to make sure that these two visions are congruent, that they work hand in hand, that they complement and they support each other. Whew. I hope y'all getting this. I hope y'all getting this, man. I hope y'all getting this. So let's go on. So number 1 is vision. Circle that. Vision. Here's number 2. You got to avoid that. You got to avoid that. You know, for 6.5 years, I had the opportunity of serving such a great guy, a phenomenal guy by the name of Dave Ramsey. And while I was there, I really learned this even more. And a lot of people believe that, you know, using other people's money is a great way to build wealth. But no, it's not. Using other people's money is not a great way to build wealth. Using other people's money is a great way, watch this, to make them wealthier, but you not wealthy. Using other people's money and paying them interest is a great way to fund their vision, is a great way to fund their dreams, is a great way to fund their family's future legacy situation. Taking out student loans, I get it. Education is great. We want to go to school. I want you to go to school. But while I was with Dave and his amazing team, I wrote a great book called Debt Free Degree. You can go to my website and check it out. But we realized that while education is so important, we also realized that student loans are preventing specifically all people, but specifically people of color, minority people from actually from building wealth. Credit card debt, paying 20% interest and that stuff. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Avoid racking up debt. 80% of the people in America today are living paycheck to paycheck. Nearly 52% of the people in the world today do not have $1,000 in their emergency fund. So if $1,000 emergency came up, that means people will have to go to the bank, have to go to a friend, have to go to a credit card to spend cash. To spend for that emergency. They can't go to their bank account and pull out cash. And when I say 80% of the people in America are living paycheck to paycheck, listen here, guys. Listen here, ladies. I'm not talking about everyday people like you and I. I'm talking about people who are multi-millionaires, who are making $5-6 million a year. They're still living paycheck to paycheck. Do you know why? It's because they don't have vision. They don't have that number one thing. They have more problems and they have more money with a lot of problems because they didn't have a vision. Number two, they're living way above their means by racking up so much debt. Avoid debt. Why do you want to go and work? If you're in high school, what do you want you to think about this? Because it's going to be a little bit above your years right now. But for everyone who's 18 and older, why do you want to go to work? Go to work on Monday, show up on time. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, I'm here. Yes, I'm doing. Yes. Working at Walmart, you're greeting people, you're serving people, or working at a customer service thing. You're answering phones. Hello, welcome to success. Thank you for calling in. How can I help? You're really showing up Monday and you're giving them your very best. You're showing up on Tuesday. You're giving them your very best. You're showing up on Wednesday. You're giving them your very best. You're showing up on Thursday. You're giving them your very best. You're showing up on Friday. You're giving them your very best. You get paid on Friday. You get the paycheck on Friday, and you take that paycheck and you go pay the banks. You go pay the credit card companies. You go pay the mortgage or your landlord. You go pay everyone else to come back home on Monday. What did you pay yourself? What did you pay your family? What did you sow into your future? What did you do? Let me tell you what you did. You put in hard labor and you gave somebody else the fruit of your hard labor. Not you, not your family. You racked up this debt. You took out student loans because everyone else says it's good. You took this credit card out so you can have 3 trade lines and have this 800 credit score. And this credit score does not help you build wealth. You have no money in the bank, but you look good with a 3-digit score. You have no money in the bank, but you look good with your clothes on. You have no money in the bank, but you look good when you show up to work and you put on that smile and you bust your butt. But you come back home broke. You come back home in debt because culture says it's normal. But my culture, my community, us at the table, it's not normal. We don't want to be in that. I don't want to wake up every single day and I have to sit here and go pay someone else and not bring home money for myself or my future family. And so, when I have more money and less problems, get out of debt. One of the quickest things that I would definitely say when it comes to getting out of debt is using the debt snowball method. If you have debt right now, you're going to line up all your debt from smallest to largest, make all your minimum payments on that. And then you're going to get an extra job. You're going to get out there and you're going to go look at your vision for your money. What can you cut off? Why do you have Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO Max, Disney Plus? Why you have all that on this TV right here? You don't need all that. Well, you don't need 5 streaming services that's costing you about $100 a month. Get rid of one. Why do you have Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal or Tittle or whatever that is called? You know what I'm saying? You don't need all that. You need one. As a matter of fact, you don't need none of them. Go on YouTube. It's free. And type in your favorite artist. You'll find a song. You know, when it comes to getting out of debt, you have to be willing. You have to be willing to do the things you don't want to do so you can accomplish the things that you want to do. It was a while ago. I can't remember when. I was sitting down with this couple and I said, yo, are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to sacrifice 12 months so you can change the next 12 years of your life? Are you willing to give yourself 12 months of being uncomfortable, of a little bit of pain so you can have less problems for the next 12 years? Are you willing to put in 12 months of being diligent, of being consistent, of living within your vision, of sticking to a budget so you can have more money come back to you and you have less problems moving forward? I love this. And so, listen, this year 2022, I want you to stop borrowing money. I want you to stop swiping that credit card. I want you to cut up the credit card. I want you to get out of debt. Here's number 3. Ooh, this is so good. And I'm about to end it up so we can take some questions because I want to make sure that I am able to really help you all and serve you all here. And excuse my craziness. Y'all, I feel like I'm going to stay somewhere and it's like 10,000 people here. But I just really want to make sure y'all understand I'm passionate about this. I remember being in debt. I remember struggling. I remember those days. And I want to make sure that if you're young, you don't have to experience it. But if you're older like me, oh man, we can change this thing. So you want to have more money and less problems? Number 1, you got to have a vision. Number 2, you got to stop borrowing money. You have to stop borrowing money. Here's number 3. Live within your vision. Ooh. It's a goal. It's a goal. You got to live within your vision, not theirs for you. Okay. You got to live within, AKA your means. Live below your means. I always tell people, the word below kind of like makes me feel a little, And so for me, I'm like, okay, just live within your vision. If your vision is, hey, I can spend, I make $5,000, a month. Okay, cool. Or I make $2,500 a month. Okay, cool. Great. Live within your vision. Have a vision, and your vision gives you permission to enjoy your life, to enjoy whatever you're going to spend your money on. Your vision is super good. One of the things that I was very, very bad at, I'm gonna be honest with you and transparent with you all here, is, one of the things that I still struggle with, even as the money guy, right, is I'm the spender. Man, as soon as I get money in my account, I'm like, yo, I can go do this, I can go do that, I can go do this, I can go do that. And sometimes, even today, I'm gonna be real with you all, I have to sit there and tell myself, no, Anthony, just because you have the money doesn't mean you need to spend the money or you can spend the money. I'll be honest. Even now, as the money guy, even now, as a guy who leads the table, I still make mistakes with my money. I still tend to stretch. I would stretch myself and I'm like, no. Like, I'm going to do this. My camera guys get upset, but sometimes I got to go in the mirror like this. No. Sometimes you just got to do that. You know why? Because you're the greatest enemy to your success. You are, not them, not the world, not culture. You. If you can't look at yourself in the mirror and say, no, that's not in a vision. You're on a vision to get out of debt. Your vision is to build a home. Your vision is to go to school debt free. Your vision is to get another job. Stop spending money. Live below your means. If you can't tell yourself no, you will not be successful. How do you build wealth? It's easy. If this is the vision, margin builds wealth. You can't build wealth if this is $5,000 and you're spending $5,000 every single month. What are you investing in? How are you growing? Where are you going? That's why you have more money and more problems, is because you're not leaving margin for some mistakes. You're not leaving margin to invest. You're not leaving margin for an emergency. You're living at your capacity. No, 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 you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You want to live within your capacity. And you really don't want to even stretch yourself to the capacity. You want to live within that. So here's my example. I just had one of my good friends on the show the other day, and he makes about $100,000 a month. It's a lot of money, you guys. But I want to give y'all an example. This is a guy who makes $100,000 a month, right? And he said, man, I really want to go buy this particular item that cost him like $50,000. And he was like, but Anthony, you know what? I didn't have $200,000 in my bank account. And so I could not afford it. God makes $100,000 a month. He said, but I didn't have $200,000 just sitting in my savings account, for his just sitting in a savings account. And he said, and I had to really wake up and say, like, you know what? Just because I have the money doesn't mean I need to spend it. That's 50% of what I make a month. I need to make sure that I have at least 3 times that in my savings account. So what he did was he shifted his whole mindset. So he said, you know what? Let me go put this in my savings first. Let me start reevaluating my vision for my life, the vision for my money. Let me save. Let's bring it back down to the common person's terms. Why do you have a Louis Vuitton purse when you don't have Louis Vuitton purse money in your savings? Why do you have $1,000 purse on you when you don't have $1,000 in your savings account? Why do you have a $300 Coach bag and you don't even have $300 in your savings account? Why? Let me tell you why. Because you don't know how to tell yourself no. And you don't value living within your means. More money, less problems. More money, less problems. 1, get you a vision. Get you a vision for your life. Get you a vision for your money, a budget. Number 2, you got to stop borrowing money. I get it. The world says a credit score. I get it. Use other people's money. No. Put money in your account. Pay yourself first. Do not live paycheck to paycheck. Number 3, live within your means. You have to live within your means, not my means, not Instagram means, not TikTok means, not Snapchat means. Get off of social media. Let me tell you right now, 80% of the people who you see doing all these trips, buying all these nice things, man, they financing it. It ain't theirs, they renting it. They flexing for the gram. They're flexing for TikTok. They're flexing so they can get the 100,000 views. Trust me, I know. You want to know how I know? Because I used to do it. And sometimes I got to remind myself, like, oh my God, I'm going to be real with you all. Listen, even now I got to be like, yo, if I buy this, people going to love this on the ground. I'm going to be real. Like, there are certain things that I want to buy, not because I really, really liked it, because I know if I have it and I post it, people going to love it. And I'm like, man, that's crazy, Ayo. And I'm just being human with you all. I'm being real with you as the money guy. So you know what I do? This is number 4. If you want to have more money and less problems. And then we're going to take some questions. You know what I do? Is I unplug from the world twice a year. You want to have more money and less problems? Unplug from unhealthy situations. Sometimes you need to unplug from social media. Sometimes you need to unplug from some friends. And it's not that they're negative. It's just that there's an impact on your eyes. And it's like, yo, what? How? I remember one time, one of my friends started his business and went out there and bought, this huge house. And he was a single guy. I was like, yo, I need to do the same thing. And I was like, no, you don't. No. No, you don't. You can't afford it right now, Anthony. There's no need to do that. And so listen, you want to have more money, less problems? I'm gonna tell you how I do it. Sometimes you just got to unplug. When we unplug, we got to go back to our vision. And I'm not trying to preach to you all and not trying to force my religion on you, but when I unplug, I pray over my vision. I pray over the things that I'm struggling with. I pray over, some of the desires that I have. I pray over some of the struggles that's preventing me from building more wealth, that's preventing me from accomplishing my vision in full. Because sometimes I am impacted and influenced by culture, by the world. That's human. So sometimes I have to unplug, recharge myself. So when I get back plugged into the world, I can go fast and I can go forward. And so listen, I'm excited about today. I'm going to bring the ladies back on so we can have a conversation and answer some of your questions. I hope that I didn't scare you all. I hope I did not make you nervous because I'm jumping all over the place and I'm screaming and I'm going all over the place. But I really want to help you experience more money and less problems. And I want to create a space to where whatever your current situation is, you can ask me a question over the next 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm ready for you all, ladies, when you're ready.
Wow, Anthony, you brought it today, okay? We didn't expect anything less. We got a lot of questions coming up for you. Okay, so we got some questions on budgeting. So I'll try to consolidate some of these questions. So the first question, someone was asking how to create a realistic budget for business, okay? And then another person had asked if budgeting could be tailored to your personality and be fun.
So on the business side, because I love the personality side, on the business side, it's very simple. You definitely still want to do a zero-based budget. As an entrepreneur and a business owner myself, there's going to be some ebbs and flows, right? You're going to have a business. You're going to go up, you're going to go down, you're going to go up, you're going to go down. So what I do is I make a budget I analyze the last 3 months of my business. And I look at, okay, what was the average and what was the bare minimum that I know I will make? And so whatever that average is and that bare minimum is, I make a budget moving forward for that. So let's say, for an example, you make an average $5,000 a month. But let's just say in that quarter, you made 10. Well, I'm going to budget the 5. And then from the 5, I'm going to simply just sit right there. And then if I make more, I'm adding that money to the next budget because that money is already inside of my actual account. And so you still want to list all the income that you know for sure you have coming in for that month, right? And then you want to list all of your expenses that you know for sure you have to pay that month. Then you want to make sure, again, it sticks to zero. But you're going to have the ebb and flow. You're going to have the highs, you're going to have the lows, but always make the budget off of the bare minimum. Don't shoot for, hey, if I have a great month, I'm going to make $15,000. No. Don't do that. Do for what you know. Do for what is the average. Do for what you know is the bare minimum. Now, when it comes to the personality, listen, one of my good friends, Rachel Cruz, wrote a book, and it was such a great book, such a great book. And it's called Know Yourself. I think it is. I forgot. Know Yourself. I forgot the name of the book, but it was such a great book because she really breaks down all of the personalities. And you have your spenders, you have your frugal people, you have your budgeters who don't break the budget. And everyone is a good personality. Everyone has its positive, and everyone has its negative. And that's what it is. I think it's like know yourself, know your money, something like that, right? So, but go check her out, Rachel Cruz, and get the book because she really breaks down all of the personality types and how to really know your personality and know how you approach money. It was a brilliant book. It was a New York Times bestseller book. And I'm telling you right now, because I'm the spender, and it's easier for me to budget right now because, I actually enjoy seeing where my money goes. But let me tell you what's so good when you budget. It gives me permission to really go spend. So if I put it on my budget, and I see that, okay, it matches my vision for my life. It is aligned with where I'm trying to go. And I say, I can go spend $1,000 on the backpack. When I walk into that store, I'm like, yo, let me get that bag right there, bro. Yeah, bring me that thing. No, don't bring me one from the shelf. Go to the very back. Get me something no one really touched and bring me the bag. I want the fresh one. I want that fresh smell. I want the real leather because I'm paying cash for it. And when I walk out, I don't feel guilty. I don't feel bad. I don't feel like I just spent money that I should not have spent. I really do feel good about what I just did. You know why? Because I gave myself permission, because I took the time to budget. And now that bag is aligned with where I'm going. Hopefully it helps you all.
That's awesome, Anthony. So we have more questions still coming in. So I'm going to group this next question. So we have someone who is a college senior, and he's still living, I think it's she's still living at home, and wants to really understand how to get started in terms of, I think with her managing her finances properly in terms of understanding taxes, investing, and kind of getting that going on. And we have another question with someone who is looking at pursuing an MBA with minimal debt. So it's that piece of, what would you recommend? Because you're talking about keeping debt, avoiding debt. And, so that's the next question.
Yeah, such a good question right there. And I think one of the main things that you have to really understand when it comes to this college thing, right, is I'm all for education, but I am not for racking up an enormous amount of debt to get the education. What I don't want you to do is walk into your future still worry about your past, right? And so what I tell everyone when I say, I want to go off and get my MBA or my doctoral degree. Cool, great. All right, great. Let's talk about that, because I want you to do that. But I really want to make sure that you need that degree to be successful. Okay. So if you want to go out there and start a business, do you need a doctor's degree to start a business? But if you want to be a doctor, you are going to that program. You're not going to work on me because of what you learned on YouTube. Okay, it's just not happening. So I want you to get the education. So I always tell everyone, assess, do you really need this particular degree? If it's a want, like I don't need it, but I want it, cool, great. Well, let's take some time and cash flow that, right? And I tell everyone, if you need the degree to be successful, one, how do we cash flow it? Two, have you done the research to see, are there other programs that are not as expensive, but just as impactful? Okay. Three, are there any other programs out there that will assist you in getting this with minimum to no debt at all? Right. And so what I tell everyone is, when you answer those three questions, 8 out of 10 times, you're going to find a program, you're going to find a way to go to school debt free. If you're one of those 2 out of 10 saying there's absolutely no way, I can't do it, I got to take out student loans. What I tell people is, man, if you do that, then you need to be focused. You need to have a game plan on how to get out of debt as soon as you graduate the program. It needs to be a plan put into place. And for those who are just now graduating and say, I'm a senior, I'm about to graduate, I'm about to go into the real world. Let me tell you the very first thing that you can invest into, and that is yourself. That is maximizing your single season right now. If you don't have any kids, if you're not married, the best investment is not into a 401k. Your best investment is not into a mutual fund. Your best investment is not into a savings account. Your best investment is into yourself, making sure that you are building your core, making sure that you're building the right network around you. When you can really focus on you and get you really situated, oh man, your 401ks, your Roth IRAs, your, all the other stuff out there in the world is going to be great. Why? Because the foundation is good. So what I recommend for seniors is, number one, rock with me and follow me, because I'm going to teach you how to really focus and work on yourself. Then number two, I'm going to give you the practical things that when it comes to your money. One of the books that I really do recommend everyone to read right now is Dave Ramsey's Baby Step Millionaires. He really walks through how average everyday people like you and I watching this have built a net worth of over $1 million, right? And in baby steps. These are not people who came out here and became millionaires overnight. No, these are people who worked on themselves. These are people who found a plan and they stuck to that plan. These are people who live within their means and really built massive success. So I would definitely pick up that book, pick up another book, maybe called Total Money Makeover. I would pick up another book when it comes to finances, learning how to really get into the space, right? There's another book out there that really has nothing to do with money, but it has everything to do with money. And it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now, Anthony, what does me winning people over have to do with me and my finances? Well, you want a job. You want a career. If you don't know how to deal with different personalities, if you don't know how to really deal with people, you will not win financially, because you need people to at least respect you. They don't have to like you, but you need people to at least respect you in your career field and in business. And so those are three things that I would recommend. Four things I would recommend them doing.
Okay, so we only have like 4 minutes left, and we got a ton of questions still. So so forgive me, guys, if I don't get to all the questions. But someone posted a question here saying that, what would you say to someone who is experiencing homelessness and living in their car, but also looking to get an apartment ASAP?
Man, right now, I would definitely say I understand you, and I've been there. I would definitely say that I'm praying for you. I would definitely say that just being honest, that God is with you still, and that you are loved, you are valued, you are important. And then on the practical side of things, I would say I don't know if getting an apartment is the ideal situation for you right now. I think the practical thing is what family, what friends can you connect with right now to just get a roof above your head? What couch can you sleep on? Where can you get to just get a stable foundation? And then from there, it's you really need to go back to, okay, writing a clear vision and getting on a proven plan that will help you move forward. Because what the last thing I want you to do is go get an apartment and then you end back in your car because you didn't really take the time to build a solid foundation. And so I will be looking for a friend or a family member that I can just crash out for the next 30 days. And while you're there, you need to maximize that time. You need to spend time going through your head. What's the vision? Where am I going? What are my skills? How can I apply my skills? What jobs can I use? Can I drive for Uber? Can I drive for Uber Eats? Can I drive for DoorDash? Can I drive for Lyft? Can I go pick up people's groceries? Can I go walk dogs? Can I jump on rope? Like, what can you do right now to just start generating $2,000 a month? And I say this in a respectful way. You can be making money today. There is a way to where you can go out there and at least make some money to eat, some money to put you in a hotel room, that you can get out there. If you're living in your car, you can make money with your car. You can make money with your car, but you got to do the research. You got to stop making excuses respectfully and figure out some things that you can do now to start generating some income while you work on your skills, while you work on your vision to go land you a job, land you a career. So that's what I would recommend to the individual.
Awesome. So we have 1 minute left. So we're going to just squeeze this in. Someone's asking, what are some tips to help start saving money when you're starting a business? Is it all down to mindset, or is there something specific they should do?
Don't go with the first thing that you see that you want to buy. I mean, the key that I'm learning even now today is that you got to spend a lot of time doing research. In businesses, you'll see this and you're like, let me get that, let me get this. Well, no, spend some time to step back and do the research and just understand, listen, business is going to come with ebbs and flows and ups and downs. You're going to be making good money, you're not going to be making good money. And so really, it's just about sticking to the vision, not buying everything that you see up front, and really try to figure out how can you accomplish this without actually buying that? Like, how can you get around this for right now? So that's something that I would definitely recommend and encourage people to do.
Wow. Anthony, thank you so much. We got a lot of still amazing questions here. I know that we are supposed to be heading out, but there's just one more question I want to see if we can squeeze in.
Okay.
Someone mentioned here that as much as financial planning is in our hands, at what point is it the responsibility of the government to step in and help us out?
That is a good question that I'm literally going back and forth. For me, the White House will not control my house. The White House is not responsible for my house, but the government do need to change some things and put things into place and into practice to give back to certain people. With me saying that respectfully, but I'm not going to sit here and wait on them, because history has shown us that they really don't care. And so I'm going to make sure that I do the very best for myself, for my wife, my future wife, and for my future kids. I'm going to make sure that I be the provider, the protector, and the priest of my home, and set my kids up to win more than me, while I'm praying and asking God to touch the government, to touch the White House. I'm not going to sit here and complain and scream at a White House that is not hearing us, and so while I'm praying, while I'm even supporting organizations that are fighting for laws to change, I'm making sure that while I'm praying and while I'm supportive and while I am arguing, I'm putting more energy and more effort into making sure that my house is good. Now, I'm be respectful to say this. I can't help you with your house. Now, if you want to sit there and at your house complain to the president, I need this, I need that, that's on you. But for me, I'm responsible for my house. I'm responsible for the kids that I bring into this world. It's not the government's responsibility to provide and to protect my kids. It's my responsibility to do that. And so I'm praying and asking God to touch the president, to touch the Congress. But I'm also working like it's only going to be depending on me. Good question.
Thank you so much, Anthony. We really appreciate it. You guys check out the table. It's on YouTube. He spits out nuggets and gems like this all the time. So thank you again, Anthony. So we're going to be getting ready for our next segment, which is our financial expert panel. And we're going to just take a quick 2-minute break as we get ready for that section. Stay tuned.
You shut it out, but I can't hear a word you say. I'm talking loud, not saying much. I'm criticized, but how your bullets ricochet. Shoot me down, but I get up. I'm bulletproof, nothing to lose. Far away, ricochet. You take your aim. Far away. You shoot me down, but I won't fall. I am titanium. You shoot me down, but I won't fall. I am titanium. Cut me down, but it's you who have further to fall. Ghost town, haunted love. Raise your voice, sticks and stones may break my bones. Talking loud, not saying much. I'm bulletproof, nothing to lose. Far away, ricochet. You take your aim. Far away. You shoot me down, but I won't fall. I am titanium. You shoot me down, but I won't fall. I am titanium.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. What an incredible keynote with Anthony O'Neal. And thank you all so much for such a lively chat. We had so many great tips and so many great questions from our group here. This has just been fantastic. It's now my pleasure to transition us and introduce our moderator for the next section of our program, where we'll continue our learning and sharing and growing together, our financial expert panel. For those of you who were able to attend yesterday, this name will be familiar and you will be delighted to see her back. But it is my joy, for those of you who don't know her yet, to welcome Nneka Ukpai. She is a two-time tech founder. She is a serial angel investor. She is an advisor to venture capital funds and other tech startups. And in addition to being a founder herself, Nneka has invested in over 30 startup companies with many, many dynamic founders at the helm. She leads CEO strategy at pre-IPO tech unicorn Better.com, and her roles really span all the functions, from capital raises to crisis management to risk mitigation to internal investigations, litigation, and regulatory strategy and financial inclusion. Nneka is a proud graduate of Howard University and Harvard Law School, where she currently serves on the distinguished teaching faculty of Harvard's Trial Advocacy Workshop. She also serves on the boards of many nonprofit organizations focused on mentorship, professional development, diversity, equity, and inclusion in the legal profession. Please join me in welcoming our moderator for the financial literacy panel, our panel of financial experts, Nneka Ukpai. Welcome, Nneka.
Thank you so very much. It's a delight to be back. We had a very, very robust conversation yesterday. We were able to answer so many questions from young budding entrepreneurs. And I'm just super excited to continue the conversation on financial literacy. And we often hear about education gaps, wealth gaps, housing gaps, but there's also just a very real basic knowledge gap. Concepts like equity and alternative finance and options trading and leveraged debt. And respectfully, I do believe that there's a responsible way to use debt if you are educated on the right way to do it. But a lot of these concepts are completely foreign to most young people of color. And so for this panel, I'm excited to bring you a robust conversation on financial literacy and wealth building. You're going to hear from financial entrepreneurs and experts. First, investor and advisor extraordinaire Mark Monroe. Second, wealth management executive Devin Blackburn. And third, fintech financial technology founder Nathan Pinto. And I have to give you this legal disclaimer: we are not giving financial advice. There's no advisor-advisee relationship created by virtue of your attendance here today. But what we hope is that you leave today with a framework to begin thinking about your personal wealth opportunities, a few wealth building strategies, and finally, an understanding of the technology solutions available to help you along your journey to financial freedom, or financial peace, as Mr. O'Neal called it. Love that. So I want to kick us off with introductions for our panelists. I would love for you to introduce yourselves and give the audience a brief overview of your background, starting with Devin.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much again, Nneka, for inviting me to be a part of this panel. So my name is Devin Blackburn, and I like to describe myself as a recovering attorney who is now a wealth management executive. Just a little background, I practiced corporate tax law for about 11 years, and I did tax planning, tax structuring on deals, mergers, acquisitions, dispositions, divestitures. And about 4 years ago, I transitioned to wealth management. So now I use my tax and legal expertise to advise ultra high net worth individuals and families. And I have a unique specialized focus on corporate executives, founders, and insiders. Those are people who will have concentrated holdings in a company or restricted stock units, stock options from various companies. And I'd say the easiest way to describe what I do, I believe yesterday you all heard from the co-founder of blockchain.com, and then on this panel as well as Mark Monroe. And so while they will show you how to create wealth, once you have it, you come to someone like me to preserve and protect it.
Absolutely, love that. Mark, can you briefly introduce yourself and give an overview of your background?
What's up, everybody? I'm Mark Monroe, one of the co-hosts, co-producers, and co-founders of the Come Up series. I consider myself a startup troublemaker, so to speak. Gone from being entrepreneur to being silent venture capitalist to now helping people create wealth and take their reparations out of the markets, and then ultimately building generational wealth. My focus is to whom much is given, much is required. And also, if the dream is free, the hustle is definitely sold separately. So I hail from Tuskegee University, a proud Golden Tiger. Also, at the same time, I'm Louis St. Cyr's grandson, I'm a proud member of the Black Panther Party and civil rights activist who got me started and got my journey going, and is one of the main reasons why I stand here or sit here in front of each and every single one of you today.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mark. And finally, Nathan, last but not least, Nathan is a serial entrepreneur. Can you give us a bit of background on you as well?
Sure. Thanks, Nneka. I'm really glad to be here. I think what's most relevant is to touch on the fintech experience that I've had recently. About 4 years ago, I came across payday loans, and I saw them as arguably one of the largest evils in society. As I'm sure everyone is on this call, but I always feel compelled to remind, the average APR on a payday loan is over 400%. And so to take that on, we built the first ever debit card that acts like a credit card upon emergencies. Essentially, we realized that the current FICO system is broken. It's really not good at taking a snapshot at an individual's life. It's not bad at answering the question, will this individual pay me back over a 30-year mortgage? But it's really poor at answering the question, can I lend $500 to someone and expect them to pay me back over the next 4 months? And so we recreated the FICO score with a product called Trust Fund, where we did cash flow underwriting instead of looking at pretty much a debt payment history. And we allowed people to leverage their savings for a line of credit. We built that product. We got up to around 5,000 users. And when COVID hit, we had an opportunity to merge our companies together and start something new, which we now call Credit Mountain. Ultimately, we realized from directly talking to our consumers that there was kind of two major unserved needs that they had. The trust fund product, while helpful, didn't come as much of a priority as the problems that they really wanted us to help solve. The first was there's a lack of apps to help them improve their credit scores. There's Credit Karma, Credit Monitoring, or Credit Sesame, but the last thing you really need when you have an app last thing you need when you have a bad credit score is just another app to tell you have a bad credit score. The other problem we saw is that our users had bigger dreams than just getting a $500 loan to deal with emergencies. They wanted to buy homes, start businesses, and that FICO score, as much as we disliked it, really was, still the gatekeeper for those products. So we saw a need and brought us to Credit Mountain, which I'm sure I'll be able to touch on later, but glad to be here.
Amazing. Welcome to all of our esteemed panelists. So excited to have you. So I want to first ground this conversation in a concept that I discuss pretty often with Devin called first generational wealth. But before we dive into that, Devin, can you share a little bit about how you made the transition from tax attorney to wealth management executive?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think about my journey, and again, I practiced corporate tax law for almost 11 years. So I started off at a large law firm, and then I was in-house. And a lot of the work that I did, quite honestly, was just soulless, right? It was always a big merger or a big acquisition for a Fortune 50 or a Fortune 100 company. It was very anticlimactic. Once the deal was done, I was on to the next deal. And so it took some time to think about what was next. And I just determined I really wanted to help people. And I landed in wealth management. Now, granted, our clients typically are ultra high net worth, meaning that they have at least 10 million in investable assets. So not 10 million net worth, but they have $10 million to give us to invest or put into trust. So people like that typically have balance sheets of 50 million, 100 million. Some of our clients are billionaires. And so I really wanted to still focus on helping people. And that's why I do a lot of community work, financial education, financial literacy, work with community groups. And to get to your first question about first generational wealth, I think there's a misconception really about what generational wealth is. And I've talked about this on Instagram somewhat, but it's not about having a good credit score. It's not about even sending your kids to college. It's not about LLCs. It's not about starting a business. Generational wealth really is when you can sustain another generation after you're gone. And I don't mean leaving them just an insurance policy. I mean, seriously, those people can be sustained from the income from your assets, right? And so presumably everyone on this call, everyone that's participating today, you have the opportunity to create first generational wealth. And what you need to understand is if it starts with you, the first generational wealth is G2, which would be your children, right? And then G3 is their children. So again, I can't stress enough. I've seen a lot of people in the chat saying that Mark changed their lives, the Come Up series changed their lives. If you've made money from that, whether it's 50,000, 100,000, a million, if you don't have a plan to protect, preserve, and transfer that, then it's nothing, right? And I think a lot of people miss that conception, miss that. There's a misconception, and they just don't understand that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And with people in the chat saying that the Come Up series has changed their lives and people who have been able to realize actual returns, it's just so important to tie back to Anthony O'Neal, our keynote earlier today, to have that vision for your money and to make sure that when you're spending it, there's alignment with what you want your future, your goals to look like, and what you want to leave for your offspring. So I think it's so important for us to ground the conversation with that framing. And with that, I actually would like to tag you in, Nathan, as a startup founder. You had the opportunity for some real asymmetric upside. And for our attendees, what I mean by asymmetric upside is a greater opportunity for upside than the potential down risk. And so as a 2x founder myself, I've seen firsthand the power of just betting on yourself. And I remember my very first app. It was initially called Aphrodite. The tagline was Date the Diaspora. It was something that I did on the side just for fun while I was working full time. It later evolved into an app called Culture Crush that's pretty popular in Brazil right now. But I spent maybe 20 grand to build it and deploy it. And within a couple of months, someone offered me $500,000 to buy it. And I thought to myself, if they're offering me $500,000, chances are it's worth much more. And so I held on to it. And I now have an opportunity to potentially exit at a much higher multiple. So Nathan, you're also a serial entrepreneur and multi-founder. Can you share a little bit about how you first entered the startup space?
Sure. That's a good question. I think I had never gone to a career fair in college. Always had been hustling and creating my own things to make money. And I went to a career fair the last sort of summer before I graduated. I went to UT in Austin, so hook 'em horns. And after just going and seeing just kind of what the traditional path was, this idea of a career and this idea of just kind of going from box to box and learning a limited amount, I felt compelled to do something else. And I think I always just kind of listened to the opportunities. And I heard that in India, they plan to build 500 million toilets in a year. So my friends and I, we started essentially IKEA for toilets in India. We moved out there, lived in a village, and built toilets for 20 different villages. And then that was purchased by a large nonprofit. And then from there, I went to a venture capital firm based here in the Dallas area, about a $50 million fund, and got the opportunity to sit on the other side of the table and just really learn from people much smarter than myself. How did they get there? How did they get to the point where people, the funds that I was working for, was ready to write them a $1, $4, or $5 million check? And just was super curious and wanted to pick their brains and learn, how did you get here? What were your biggest mistakes? And I try to, take those learnings and implement them today.
Amazing. And I'm glad that you touched on that because there's so many different ways to build wealth. I saw in the chat, someone said that they were happy that they tapped in because we're talking about a lot of different strategies. And so I want to pivot to Mark because there are so many different strategies and some people are risk averse and perfectly happy to take a passive, 10 to 15% annualized, but some people lean more into risk. Not only are you a highly successful entrepreneur, but you've literally been investing since you were 9 and in earnest since your days at Tuskegee. Shout out to the HBCUs. Can you educate our viewers on what options trading entails and let us know what drew you to that? Hey, Mark, I thought it might have been my computer, but I think it's you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. All right. So I said, let's roll the clock all the way back to August of 2004, my freshman year at Tuskegee University. My grandfather gave me $1,000 and then just like literally dropped me off and was like, hey, you got it from here, figure it out. I started buying stock at the age of 9 and pretty much just, pretty happy with the returns in which I got until I got to college and realized, oh man, this is not going to be enough to take me through 4 years worth of college. And so I had to get really smart really fast and figure out exactly what is it that I could do after I took out my first ever student loan by myself. And that's when I started like thinking about the knowledge in which that my grandfather had given me for all those years through investing. And then that's when I started looking at stock derivatives, AKA options trading. Went to a lot of college professors, and it was like kind of like everybody pushing me back and saying, no, don't do it. Super duper risky. You'll lose all of your money and everything else. Of course, that never really deterred me. That just like said, okay, hey, dive deeper. So options trading, just for everybody in the room, is pretty much you have the option to buy or sell a specific contract of a specific stock, whether index or company base. That comes with an expiration period over a period of time. And based upon how the stock moves or how the position moves or the security moves, if it moves in the favor in which that, how is it that you've chosen your specific price target, then its intrinsic value goes up before its expiration. If it goes the opposite way of wherever it is that you have chosen your strike price goal, then of course it loses its intrinsic value. The best way to explain it is, think about it. Let's move it out of the stock market and let's think real estate. If I have a house that I'm looking to buy for a lease option to own, and that house is being offered to me for $400,000 with a 2-year expiration, that I have to make a decision to buy or to move on from this house. By the time that, so I say that I'm going to do it, but by the time that the house is ready for me to purchase at that 2-year point, that house is no longer worth $400,000. That house is now worth, let's say, $700,000. The price that I would potentially pay if I choose to execute on this house would be at $400,000, which I walk in with a $300,000 equity profit value in the house. The same rules work when we think about it in options trading. If I say that Apple is going to reach $150 in a share, and then essentially it goes from 100 to 150, then that makes it very lucrative for me, versus only me gaining the $50 in share value. Essentially, I'm at some type of a higher multiplier versus, say, for example, that $50. So instead of me making $50 profit, I could range anywhere from about a $300 to roughly $1,000 per contract in that options trade.
That's awesome. And I've watched your videos on YouTube. I've gone through the comments. So many people commend you for being able to break it down in terms that everyday people can understand. And I'm just curious for the audience, can you let us know how you came up with the idea for the Come Up series?
So shout out to my co-producer and co-founder of the Come Up series, Jolene. So before I even got into like really doing content, because that really wasn't really my forte of stepping out there into this space, I started, just trying to share the information and the knowledge in which that I knew. Because after finally reaching, a certain plateau in my career and in my life, after going through acquisition, going through like being on the venture capital side, I realized that, I'm sitting at the top of this mountain, and this mountain is very, very lonely. Like there's not very many people that really look like you, that understand, the journey and what it means to be us. And so I felt like it was a responsibility of mine to start teaching people around me, anybody that would want to like literally learn how to invest or how to trade, what it looked like. Because for me, it's like, what a lot of folks don't realize is trading took me through college, and it also kept my startup afloat when I used to go down to San Francisco or Silicon Valley to pitch to 37 different investors or VCs, and ultimately getting that infamous no, and ultimately keeping a startup alive. So for me, it's like I wanted to teach people, everything that it is that I knew, that if, say, for example, if my time had ended, I wanted to make sure that I left the world better than the way I found it. So shout out to Jolene for pulling me out, because she went on her Facebook and told everybody, hey, y'all, just a modest 967% return for the year. And this was back in, I think, 2019. And so then all of a sudden, everybody's just like hitting me up like, yo, what's good and everything else. And then finally, we just like, we had this discussion because I was like, okay, hey, the cat's kind of out of bag now. Well, now it's time to actually start to share the knowledge on a much more bigger scale if we think that it can actually have some legs. And that's really where the Come Up series really started from that point.
I love everything about that. I say all the time, no one wants to be wealthy alone. No one wants to build wealth alone. We're all stronger when we do it together. And I want to lean into, I want to kind of pivot a little bit based on something that you said. I want to double click on. We had an amazing entrepreneur roundtable yesterday, and a lot of the attendees had questions around fundraising. Things like, should you go after non-dilutive fundraising first, grants and the like, pitch competitions, or should you lean more into venture? And the fact that you had the experience of actually having to fly to get told no to your face, I'm smiling. I don't mean to
No, it's all good.
but when I raised my first equity round, it was at 1.7 million, but it was during the pandemic. So that was an actual, silver lining of not being able to get on planes. I got to just get on Zoom and power right through those no's. They told me no on Zoom. I clicked off and went on about my business, and it was just fine. But I have to imagine that actually flying to California to be told no had to hurt just a little bit.
It hurt because you had to think about it, like the expenses and everything else. And then finally I got so dejected. I was like, what, to hell with these flights. I'm just gonna drive. So because that way I can just like build up the courage to literally over this 21-hour drive, just to drive from Seattle to San Francisco. Hey, if they tell me no, at least I had a lot of views and everything else and sights to see. But yeah, so to answer your question though, yeah, you should definitely go for those things first. Definitely go for non-dilutive. I mean, because when you think about it, for those in whom which that don't understand what non-dilutive is, that pretty much means that you're getting money without having to give up any type of ownership equity or anything like that, like receiving grants, receiving, pitch competition awards, for folks in whom which that just want to make the necessary investment just to see it grow without anything in return. Those are huge. And on top of that, they speak volumes on your company as well, which also gives you a little bit of street cred as well. Every company is, of course, different in the process in which that they go through, depending on what your funding requirements are, what is it that you need. But yeah, to most startups, I would definitely say going with the non-dilutive rounds if you can first, or getting grants. Definitely take those on. There's nothing wrong with taking in free, money with no strings attached. Because once when you reach, to the stage of, I guess I should say my people, it's a little different when you're raising, let's say, a seed or Series A round at whatever valuation. And ultimately you have to look at it in the sense of they take anywhere from 18 or sometimes 15 on the low side, all the way up to, say, for example, 25% equity from you. It's just different. So again, if you can go with non-dilutive, or if it fits your model, definitely take it.
Yeah, and I got some non-dilutive capital. I bootstrapped quite a bit as well. I want to pivot to Nathan, though, because you are a venture-backed startup. My startup is also venture-backed. How did you decide, Nathan, whether to go the VC route versus continuing to bootstrap or keep the company going off of revenue?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's a good question. My last startup called Farm to Cook, we took it to 10 million in revenue and never raised $1 of outside capital. But I think you really just have to evaluate the business model and understand kind of what's your path to revenue. I think most tech startups, if you're going to do it properly and with where the bar is at today, if you're going to be building anything that's relatively sophisticated technology-wise, then you're probably going to have to raise some money. Obviously, there's the route of learning how to code yourself, but the honest advice I would give to most people, as I give to my friends, is kind of a don't quit your day job. There are so many awesome platforms out there like Upwork, Fiverr, where keep your day job and find someone in India or Ukraine for $15 an hour to build your app for you and get that initial sort of proof of concept. I think once you have that proof of concept and that, I think trying to raise capital as well. I don't know how many people in the audience are really thinking about this seriously, but if you are trying to raise capital and you're just trying to do it off a pitch deck, it's going to be a waste of your time. I think the odds of you managing to raise around without any traction, without any proof that your idea works or that people want it or people will pay for it, it's really difficult until you have a track record showing that you've been there, done that enough times that you're not wasting your time. So my honest suggestion is, if you're building something sophisticated, start with the easiest version of it, go on Upwork, find some developers that are low cost, get into the hands of some people, prove that they'll pay for it, and then investors will invest, so that way you can build a better version and charge more money for it.
That's such an important concept. A lot of times entrepreneurs, and especially entrepreneurs of color, sort of let perfection be the enemy of progress, and they want their product to be perfect before they even go out to the market. There's a concept called MVP, your minimally viable product. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you want to laugh heartily, go back and Google what the first version of The Simpsons looked like. I guarantee it is well worth it, but it's a true testament to being able to just release something. The hardest part is just getting started. So thank you for that, Nathan. And while we're on the subject of startups, I want to dig into the concept of being paid in equity, because owning your own startup or investing in another startup are not the only ways to get equity in a startup and participate in those wealth accumulation opportunities. There's a whole startup ecosystem, hundreds of thousands of startups in this country, hiring people at all levels and for all roles. And for our audience viewing who might not know, when you apply to work at a startup, you can typically negotiate a portion of your salary to be paid in equity. And I want to give you a quick example. There were two friends who started at Netflix on the same day. Netflix, like many startups, have a sliding scale where you can choose how much you want to be paid in cash, how much you want to be paid in equity. One friend chose to be paid 50% of their salary in cash, 50% in equity. The other friend chose 95% in cash and 5% in equity. Friend who chose 5% in equity is still working at Netflix. Friend who chose 50% in equity had retired a long time ago. Last I checked, he was worth $30 million. And so I want to just double click on the concept of being paid in equity if you're interested in joining the startup ecosystem. And I want to start with Devin. What are your thoughts on having equity in private companies as a viable wealth building strategy?
Yeah. So there's been so many gems that have been shared today. And I just want to make sure everyone in the chat, if you do not have a notebook, get out a piece of paper, a legal pad, a notebook, seriously, because again, Mark and Nathan, they have startups. They're in VC. Remember, I'm in wealth management. My clients are them, right? But hundreds of millions, billions. And to be clear, these are the same conversations we have with them. No exaggeration. These are the same conversations we have with them. Beyond that, I think after this, there's going to be a networking session. If you can, you need to be there because connections are huge. There are roundtables that we host for our wealthy clients. 5 of them, 7 of them. They want to know, what is someone similarly situated in California doing differently than what I'm doing in Iowa or Nebraska or wherever. Number 2, as Nathan said, proof of concept. You don't have the relationships and the connections. You need to make sure you have something that really, really works. And beyond that, the idea of perfection, drop that. I can't tell you how much we do at my institution, Northern Trust. I got 2 things I got to turn in tomorrow that more than likely will not ever see the light of day, but that's getting us closer to another initiative, another project, another product. So really take all of this in and execute on it, okay? Now, as far as equity, again, I focused on equity linked comp, and that's it. My clients are executives, they're insiders, they're investors, and I lead our executive wealth advisory practice. And last year, I actually launched our IPO wealth advisory practice. Why? Because we had a record number of IPOs in 2021, not only in this country, but in the world. And so for those of you who are, I believe there's a lot of college age students on here. If you are starting at a company, number 1, if you don't feel comfortable negotiating your salary, hire a negotiation compensation specialist. I have one at my level, right? I paid the person literally $1. We worked together for months. They wrote my script. They wrote my emails. I now earn more money than I've ever earned in my life. It's none of this isn't a mistake, right? It's an art as much as it is a science. And when you walk in with that confidence and you know exactly what you want, you know what your value is, you're going to be more likely to get it. So the importance of equity. Let's just be real. Black people, we are at a huge disadvantage. It is going to be very difficult for us to catch up to have the hundreds of millions and so forth to pass down. So the idea of budgeting and saving, that's important, but you've got to do something to raise your income. That's it. You've got to be you have to be risk averse, really to take on risk, right? So doing the things that Mark is teaching, putting out projects, and also asking for the equity, getting in those roles that are going to be able to command you the most money. Is there anything you want me to speak on as far as equity, like the different types, whether it's restricted stock units? I will say this because Mark has used the term options a lot. And when I first introduced myself, I mentioned that I advise clients who have stock options. Totally different thing. So the options, what he's talking about, you or I can go on a brokerage platform and we can trade in those options. The kind of stock options that my clients get, for example, it's bonus season right now. It's award season. So I have a client and he may get 1,000 stock options in his company. That means that his company says, you can purchase these shares once they vest, once you've been with us a year, or once you have reached a certain performance level. Once that happens, you can buy this stock for $50. And let's say in a year, the stock is trading for $100. Then they just have that, they have that built-in gain. They've already made money, right? So there's all different types of equity as well.
Can I tag on to that?
I was
possibly?
just about to pivot to you. Go ahead.
So one of the things in which that I also mentioned to folks is that, it's very crucial because, a lot of folks don't, especially when they work at these companies, when you work at a startup, normal startup language is that you typically receive equity over a 1-year cliff with a 4-year vest. So pretty much saying that your entire shares that you will accrue or that you will receive from the startup will typically take place over a 4-year period where you're fully vested into the startup. Now, there's folks that are working at companies that have received their stock options and they decide to execute and buy off of those options, in which that they get those at a huge discount, which Devin was actually talking about. But then they also go to other markets where they put it on, say, for example, secondary markets in which that you can buy. I'll tell you a story of how that happens. So let's say, for example, you're a person that works at Rivian and you're like, okay, hey, well, I already get paid significantly. The stock that I have is great, but yet I want to sell it. So then what do? I put it on a platform like, say, for example, an Our Crowd or a Shares Post, where those can be bought by individuals like, for example, myself, Devin, Nathan, and probably other people in this room. Well, I mean, that's exactly what I did because I'm not going to go work at Rivian. So what I'll do is I'll probably be the buyer of those shares, in which that you bought your shares, and I'll buy those shares. And just as a heads up, it's like I was buying Rivian shares at $12 a share on the secondary market. So then by the time when it went public, the stock went public, I think at about $60 or $70 a share. So again, it's like there's multiple different options in which that you can execute on, where it's not just within the retail space, but it's just in the sense of just having that equity and where it ultimately pays off in the long run.
That is so major, and I hope that didn't go over people's heads. If you don't have your notepad out, write that down. Share post, equities in.
Can I share something, please? And I want people to understand something else, the importance and just the value of having that type of ownership. There's something that we do at my institution called S-blocks, security-based lines of credit. Hear me out. I literally have clients who say, I've got 500,000 of this stock. I really believe it's going to go up in value. I don't want to sell it. But God, I really want to buy this second home. They pledge their stock with us. They still own it. They can still get the dividends, and we will give them an interest-only loan.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have these different avenues, right? And that's what a lot of people don't understand, what they're missing out on. Different ways to even get this leverage and get financing and get access.
All right, y'all heard
It's
me
dope
at the
that you-
top. Where
It's
I
dope that you
said-
mentioned that, Devin, because you can actually now do that on retail brokerages as well. If you own the stock, then you can also borrow against the value of the stock.
Yep. So that goes back to the earlier point that I made about not agreeing necessarily about all debt being bad, and us just having to understand that debt has a role to play. If you use it wisely and you educate yourself on all the different ways, it can open up so many options for you. I have multiple mentors who are mega billionaires, and they do not use their own money to do anything at all. But we can. I digress. I can get back to the panel questions. All right. So I want to actually pivot to Nathan, because your startup was created to disrupt predatory payday lending. You mentioned that earlier. Eventually evolved into Credit Mountain. I want to deep dive a bit the specific problem that you're solving for, because we got a lot of questions yesterday about what actionable concrete steps people can take to start becoming more credit worthy and to start building their credit. And that was something that I think we as panelists yesterday may have taken for granted because of the space that we occupy, really not thinking through the fact that there are people in the audience who are college age, people who are just getting started on their journey to financial freedom. So Nathan, if you could just give us a 30,000 foot view on Credit Mountain, and from there, I would love to pivot back to Mark to talk about the role that credit can play in helping you build wealth.
So at Credit Mountain, we are trying to solve the problem of a rejection being the end of a road if you're applying for products like a mortgage and not a refi. So we sell a white labeled software solution to banks and credit unions and fintech lenders that allows them to identify what we call near miss rejected borrowers and offer them a path to approval. So now if you're applying for a mortgage at, let's just say, Wells Fargo, and you get rejected, instead of them just saying, hey, sorry, you got rejected, here's some legal language around to kind of CYA, they're able to say, here's a path to approval. And when you download our application, which is fully branded for Wells Fargo, our AI credit counseling engine creates a plan to take you from your existing situation. So we take into account your credit profile, your free cash flow, your timeline, and help you figure out how to get to the approval point with actionable tools. We actually just launched a direct-to-consumer app called Credit Climber, which you can find in the App Store. We've done that just as we test new features. We just launched a new feature, which is an automated credit card pay down solution. So you can set a rule like the second time I get paid each month, I want to pay down an additional $100 on these credit cards, and we automate that process. So if you want to check out that app, it's in the App Store under Credit Climber.
Amazing. And Mark, anything to add on the use of credit and the utility of it?
I mean, one of the things that a lot of folks don't realize is that, for me, it's like I actually use credit to really start my journey as it pertains to building wealth. For me, it's like, not only just taking out a student loan for college, that student loan that I took out for college ultimately, became leverage for me, because most of the time when you have student loans as well as financial aid that comes through, you normally receive a refund check. And so I use that refund check to literally get myself going in my journey. Now, the first time I did it, especially as my first time options trade, it's like my account got completely blown up. So, and I don't advise anybody to do this because of the fact that, ultimately, make sure that one, you do a significant amount of research. And then on top of that, essentially, it's like you make the right decision for you financially and probably even seek a financial advisor, which I would probably also suggest you're never too young to also seek financial advisement. So even at the age of 18, there's multiple ways in which that you can utilize, say, for example, credit to literally put yourself in a place as it pertains to one as a founder, taking out a business loan, especially if your business is ultimately ready to take on revenue. As an investor, you could take out, say, for example, a loan and put it towards a long-term investment that ultimately pays out a dividend and ultimately pay that back as it pertains to your loan payment. But I mean, again, it's like there's so many different variations. It's just a matter of exactly one, what is your financial plan? To also, making sure that not only do you have a plan, because I always say that everybody comes up with a plan, but they don't have a process. And so if you have a plan, that's great. But then what is your standard operating procedure and method of how is it that you're going to move forward? So, for example, what I typically do in any type of planning is I have a go or no go process. So the same thing works probably on Devin's side, and the same thing probably works on Nathan's side. When you evaluate either a business or when you evaluate an investment opportunity or when you evaluate any type of financial decision, there has to be X amount of, things in which that sit forth and say, okay, hey, I need to hear these things that give me confirmation to say that this is a go. If not, then it's an immediate no-go process. And if X, Y, Z, or say, for example, align to the fact that it says that this is a no-go, then it's just not going to happen. So again, in the matter and how in which that you use credit, it also has to fit within that go or no-go process.
Super helpful. So I want to make sure that we leave time for Q&A. I see we have a number of questions in the Q&A box. Everyone, as questions pop up, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box. And I'm going to start with, how do you invest for the first time ever? In parens, how to actually do it right now. And I'll kick us off. There are a number of financial literacy modules that talk about different ways that you can get into investing. And there are a number of apps that are geared towards financial education, specifically with respect to the stock market. One is called Stock Boss Up. I know that they are teamed up with a couple of our favorite hip hop artists and doing a big push right now. There's another one called Public that allows you to sort of see trends among groups of friends and family. That's kind of cool. And I'll pivot to Mark, Nathan, Devin. Do you have any tips for getting started on investing right now?
I'd like to just share one thing, please. One thing that Mark said, he mentioned that you're never too young to have a financial advisor. And I agree with that, but I want all 140 participants to understand the difference between a financial coach, a financial advisor, an investment manager, and a wealth manager. And I think that's where people can get really confused, right? So a financial coach is going to be someone who's probably going to help you with budgeting, maybe your credit score. A financial advisor sometimes is interchangeable with the term financial consultant or financial planner. And sometimes they actually are certified by an independent regulatory body, and they're going to help you with an overall holistic plan, right? And that's going to be short-term, mid-term, long-term. An investment manager, if someone is asking you to give them your money and they're going to invest it for you, you had better make sure that they've got certain licenses from FINRA, the SEC, and so forth. Someone like me, wealth manager, is someone who is going to have a certain level of expertise, be it tax, legal, because a big part of my practice is actually putting together different trust vehicles, grant or retain annuity trust, spousal lifetime annuity trust, irrevocable trust, ILETs, and so forth. So before you sign a dotted line with anybody, you need to understand exactly what they're going to do and how they get paid. And with that said, I think a lot of this comes down when you want to start to invest. You need to understand if you're going to self-manage or if you're going to, have a third party do it for you. But no matter what, you've got to get the education. You need to understand what a stock is, a bond is, what minimum investment levels are. You need to understand ticker symbols. Like you just need to have some understanding. And if you've never actually seen a brokerage statement, I tell you to go Google that too, right? So don't skip any of the basics. Don't skip any steps at all. That's what I would say.
Yep, super important. You can't just jump in, otherwise you'll lose a lot of money very quickly. Another resource, if anyone's taking notes, is Freeman Capital, Black owned, RIA, really, really down to earth. Young people understand sort of the various challenges that we face as young people trying to get into the game. So that might be another resource for you to Google. Freeman, Freeman.
Yeah.
Mark?
Yeah. So, I mean, Devin hit a lot of it on the head, and so did you. I mean, really, it's like, when you look at companies, like a lot of times people want to invest in companies just because of the fact that they hear about them on social media and everything else. If you really want to get into the investment, if you want to start your investment journey, like here's the thing that like what really started my investment journey. And I really recommend this for everybody. And I actually used to do this to folks that I teach. My grandfather, before I could buy any stock, he made me pitch. Why is it that this company is worth investing? Like I literally had to come forth with a full-fledged pitch on a company. And not only did I have to pitch the company, but I also had to defend the company. And when you're able to do that, let me tell you like some of the magical pieces that open up for you. Not only are you starting to understand the skeletal bones of a company and understanding exactly where their place is in the market and how is it that they make money, but those things are quite universal because of the fact that they flow through other companies. But then on top of that, you start to understand what's happening around the company, what ultimately insulates the company from any potential downside risks. What are the areas in which that can be seen for upside opportunity? Where is the growth? Are its best days ahead of it, or is it behind it? Those are some of the things that you like to get to know about a company long before you even start to even push the button to put your dollars to work. We all want to like jump step and like really run through all these other steps just so that way we can immediately start to see the green numbers start to show up within our brokerage account. But there's so many other steps that go into the process that if you skip some of those steps, then you find yourself when, like, say, for example, the market is in correction during this time period, without actually having any of that understanding, then you start to now you start to feel that large amounts of anxiety. You start to feel depressed and everything else because of the fact that you don't have the information, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the wisdom to ultimately say, okay, hey, this is the reason why it's doing it. Understanding the market dynamics, understanding exactly where are we at in the economic landscape and cycle. So those are all the things that really help. And the first thing that gets you started is just do your research on just one company and then the next company and keep going. Like the one thing that a lot of folks don't know about Wall Street is probably about 80% or more of them are not traders. Majority of them are researchers. Like they spend majority of their time, their life and time at whatever brokerage or whatever firm or investment bank that they're at. They spend majority of the time researching not only just a specific stock, but the world. So that's something to keep in mind. Like when you go on this journey, consider yourself a lifelong researcher and an adventurer for knowledge, because that's ultimately the path that you set yourself on.
Absolutely. And in that vein, lifetime researcher, Michelle P., we saw your question. In your 50s, it's never too late. It's never too late to learn something new. It's never too late to start a new journey. I commend you. I salute you. Thank you for being here with us. We're so happy and lucky to have you here. Next question. It says top 3 to 5 book recommendations from each speaker. I'm going to condense that to one so that we can have enough time to answer a couple more questions. I'll kick us off. Probably King of Capital. It follows the rise and fall and rise again of Blackstone. I learned so much by reading it, completely changed the way that I view money. I will popcorn to Devin.
It's so many and so many. But I would have to say one of my favorites is The First 90 Days. And I like to read that whenever I'm embarking on something new, because it forces me to have a fresh perspective and it forces me to just approach it as if it's my last opportunity and I'm giving it my all, right? And it always forces me to get key wins in anything new that I'm pursuing.
Nathan.
Sure. I mean, I think one to just piggyback off that last conversation topic is the book that Warren Buffett credits a lot of his success to, and was written by his mentor, The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. I think there's been a lot of talk about investing, and if there's one book that summarizes all the knowledge that made one of the richest men who he is today, It's that book. And if you're going to be serious about stock investing and you don't read that book, then I don't think you're that serious, to be honest.
Facts. That's like literally like the textbook for pretty much anybody who's an investor. Dang. I'll say, can I just throw two out there? Because I think that
Yeah,
we
of
need to give one
course.
we also need to give one out there for the startups as well. The Lean Startup by Eric Ries
Yeah.
or Eric Ries for startups. And then on the financial side, The Color of Money, Black Banks and the Racial Wealth Gap by Mersa. I don't want to butcher her last name, but I definitely want to say Baradaran. That's her. It came back to me. Mersa Baradaran. She wrote The Color of Money, and it's a very influential book to understand exactly where we come from and also understanding exactly what the landscape looks like now.
Amazing. Fabrice asked whether we can reshare those secondary sites that we mentioned earlier, Mark. One was Share Post. I mentioned also Equities.
Oh, Share's Post, Equities In, and Our Crowd.
Thank you
There's
very
probably
much.
there's probably a few others as well. So
Yeah, but just researching the secondary market for private shares in a company will get you the information that you need. Question for Devin. Can you talk about some tax strategies you've shared with your high net worth clients that are applicable to everyday individuals? That's interesting.
That are applicable to everyday individuals? With all due respect, probably not. Just because some of these clients have so much money that they're trying to determine, how can I not pay 40% of my wealth to the government this year or when I die? So I will tell you something that I came up with last year. It was called the Wealth Planning Trifecta. And it was because we had the confluence of low interest rates, the highest gift and estate tax exemption in history, and then we had a threat that Biden was going to totally revamp taxes, right? So one of the strategies I did with my clients was grantor retained annuity trust. And I would be surprised if Mark, Nneka, or Nathan don't use these, just because presumably you all have stock that you believe is going to appreciate greatly. So with the rates as low as they were, if you were to use the grantor retained annuity trust, I think the 75-20 rate last year was like 0.9%, and it typically hovers around 5 to 7. If you were to put the stock that hasn't yet appreciated in a grantor retained annuity trust of GRAT, and then you were to name a beneficiary, G2 or G3, any appreciation that grows in there would be able to be transferred tax-free while you were still able to take an annuity every year. Another one I would say for the average person, this is an easy one. If you're charitably inclined, something called a donor advised fund, where you're able to put in a large chunk of money today, say 100,000, 500,000, and take the tax write-off today, but over the course of 10 years or the rest of your life, you're able to direct exactly how you want those funds to go to charity. So those are some of the two things that I've been doing a lot with my clients, especially my clients who have stock that's appreciated that they don't want to pay the capital gains on.
I could probably give some taste to that too, just from my own personal. When I got to this stage, it's like the things that I had to look at it differently was, because of course you make it to the stage and now you find yourself asking that question, what now? What do I do now? One of the biggest things that I've learned across this entire process, and shout outs to Devin, because she kind of like gave you guys kind of like a glimpse of it. It's really about capital allocation. How is it that you allocate your capital? And anybody that's considered high net worth, those are the things that are always considered on the forefront of our brains of how is it that we allocate our capital wisely. And then two, taxes. Always on the horizon. Now, for everybody else, it's like, the things in which you got to look at it from this trajectory is always from this simple standpoint: growth, income. Those are the two things that must always be on the forefront of your brain as you're getting started and as you're working your way to get there to that wealth. Is the fact that depending on where you are in age, let's say that you're just getting started, since we hear that there's a lot of high school students going to college or college students in here, your focus is on growth. Like at such a young age, you're very much so focused on as much growth as you can because you can take the risks. So essentially focus on as much growth as you can, but then there's going to come this point in time where it's like, okay, hey, you make these pit stops and then turn that growth into income. So then for the folks in whom which that are older, it's like they've accumulated X amount of growth. And even if you're getting started, like don't feel discouraged or anything like that, because my grandfather started options trading technically in 2020. And it's like he went from just being a long-term holder in stocks to having a small portion of his portfolio to literally having options for his growth. So which lets you know he's still very much so focused at his age right now in his 80s of income, but then leaving a little bit of room for growth. And if you literally start to understand the eves and flows and understanding where you're at, then essentially now it kind of like it sets the stage for you. And then of course, keep those things on the other side of the horizon, which is the capital allocation. How is that you choose to allocate your capital? And then also what does your tax implication look like?
Gems all around. So Q&A is supposed to be over a minute ago, but I think we can squeeze in one more question because this is probably one that's on a lot of folks' minds. As someone who's new to the space, what are some tips for investing in startups? Where do I find companies who are looking for funding? Number one, I would encourage you to do a little bit of research on the term accredited investor, because that's going to be required when investing in a startup. And the definition was recently expanded to be more inclusive. So definitely look that up. And then secondly, get on AngelList. It's a platform that's very similar to LinkedIn, but all about startups and all the trends in angel investing in startups. So that's concrete, tangible, definitely a place to start. Nathan, I know that you were at a VC. Do you have any thoughts on that? You're on mute.
Permission to speak freely here. I would say, to be honest, if you're just starting, I would say do not invest in startups. I mean, it's really the odds of an early stage startup succeeding. And this is if you're looking at like the highest caliber of founders, you're probably looking at maybe 1 in 20 odds, and that taking 7 to 10 years. I think if you're someone like Nneka who can place investments into 20, 30 companies, then sure, that makes a lot of sense. And that's the right way to do it. If you're going to do less than 10, odds are you're going to come out unsuccessful. I think startups are really risky, and yeah, there are better opportunities maybe that if you find to get into the secondary market, you discover some app and you're like, wow, this app is fantastic. And even if you see this app and it's blowing up and you somehow find shares on the secondary market, and while your dollars are might going to earn you, such a small little decimal of equity in that company, it's ultimately, if you see that company one day reaching the likes of a Spotify or Netflix, then perhaps hop into it. But do not bet on early stage companies. Wait till they're a little more established and are kind of about to hit that inflection point.
Fair. Yep. Agree.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Though that it's always good to just have them as a watch list just to follow along. For me, it's like going through that process and understanding, for us on the venture capital side, we're led by benchmarks. Essentially every year we look at things like IRR. We look at things like we also follow along, say, for example, specific benchmark requirements or key performance indicators when it comes to return back to limited partners or anybody else. So again, it's more so it's kind of very much so institutional on our side of things. But it's, honestly, for the person that's just looking to get out there, trust me, you're going to take on a lot of ambiguity and risk in investing in seed stage funds or seed stage companies. I would definitely say, if you can, focus on the secondary market, because therein is it also allows you to build up more liquidity into the capital space. And normally those companies that you see in those markets are pretty much well battle tested beyond seed and Series A. They're typically in their series Series C, Series D, and beyond stages, which lets you know that, okay, hey, they're here for the long haul.
Yeah, all very, very good and valid and strong points. 96% or so of startups do fail. We talked about that yesterday on the Entrepreneurship Roundtable. So definitely do your homework. We are out of time. I wish we could spend more time together.
It went so fast.
I know, and there's so many amazing questions in the chat and in the Q&A box. But the good news is that we have peer-to-peer networking right now in a separate Zoom.